Right over your heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor, quorum is present for the City Council, successor agency, Housing Authority, Finance Authority, Parking Authority, and Joint Powers Authority.
Okay. Any persons wishing to address the City Council, successor agency, the Housing Authority, Finance Authority, Parking Authority, or the JPA on any item on the agendas may do so at this time for 3 minutes. Hearing no comment, we'll go on to item 1, CSA 1 and H1.
Warrant register.
Receive and file. It's okay. I'm not used to it yet either. M1.
Approval of the minutes for the meeting held on July 9th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. We'll go on to the consent calendar, items 2 through 9.
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Now we'll go to what I've been waiting for, DR1.
Staff report presenting the proposed fiscal year 2024 through 2025 annual budget.
Ms. City Manager, is there a staff report?
No staff report. No, I'm just kidding. This year, I've been waiting about 14 years to give this staff report, right? Okay. So most of the folks here in the room, I think, are accustomed to the fact that whenever the mayor has something that's poignant, that's salient, that he wants to resonate, it's a pearl of wisdom, he leans forward, sometimes a smile, and he says, now get this, all right? And so what I say to the mayor and council as a preface to my remarks today is, now get this. As you will recall, I bookend Artie Fields, the second longest serving city manager here in the city. And in fact, I was asked to talk to him prior to the council making a decision to hire him. And of course, I thought it was a great recommendation, and he wound up serving here with distinction, and that's great. And when I came back into the office recently, I opened the cabinets, and most of the cabinets, the items that he needed removed were removed. But as it turns out, and I actually have a prop in this presentation, as it turns out, he left me a copy of the city budget that I last sent you in 2010-11. So in 2024, that's what I opened up and I found in the cabinet. And I think it was his way of saying, you left me a mess, buddy, but the job's done. And it largely has been done as a result of his good work and all the good work and hard work and legislative actions and so forth that this body has taken. So it took me a moment, but I decided I was going to go through the old budget message. And for those of you who have had the time to take a look at the budget message this year, and not everybody has, I understand that because the budget gets printed in limited form in the proposed package. I just wanted to share with you that back in 2010-11, I had to write a budget message to report that the general fund was going to be at $80.4 million. But the worst part of that, of course, was that there was a $17.6 million projected deficit. We had $0 set aside for general fund for capital improvement projects. And as far as our undesignated reserves, we had $0. And as most of you know, I know the mayor joined that year shortly after this budget was proposed. And Councilman Morales had been there at the time. And so as most of you know, at that time, I said that the budget message was really tantamount to a continuing budget resolution because it was not a plan for 12 months worth of funding. I mean, the city just wasn't going to be sustained unless many actions were taken. And ultimately they were, and that took a lot of courage on the part of the entire city council at that time, led by the mayor. And let me just quote, because these aren't the kinds of words you hear from city managers, but in 2010, 11, and to provide some context is to provide meaning, I think, and better understanding of just how far you've come as a body and how far we've come as a city. In the 2010-11 budget message I wrote, these figures convey a stark reality and a sense of urgency. Absent prompt and decisive action by the mayor and city council at the outset of fiscal year 2010-11, the city will exhaust its operating funds and the balance of the general fund's designated reserves by mid-year. It will then be unable to meet its financial obligations or fulfill its duty to provide municipal services. So that's where we were in 2010-11, and I before I left that year, I proposed a slate of actions that needed to be taken. And I see Councilman Morales nodding because he remembers them, and by most descriptors, they were draconian. They were draconian. We had over 100 layoffs. We had furloughs. We had to help people out the door through some retirement incentives. There were severe service cuts, including the very controversial recommendation of mine to close Fire Station 172 for about 3 years, which they ultimately did. And then I wrote virtually every major contractor in the city, and I said, I need a voluntary 10% reduction in your service charges. Otherwise, we'll go back out to bid. We're going to cancel your contract. So that's kind of where we were then. In the budget presentation that you're going to see now, I think you're going to see a stark contrast and a reversal of fortune that really is I think, unprecedented. But I will want to sum it up for you by a statement I have on the first page of your budget message. And it says, general fund spending is recommended, that's for this year, general fund spending is recommended to increase by 10.3% on the strength of an 18.4% rise in projected revenues. The proposed budget that you have in front of you today is structurally balanced without the need for reliance on one-time revenues, the use of reserves, or the carryover of a sizable projected $26 million in operating savings this year, which can now be added to an already burgeoning general fund reserve. So with that introduction, I'm going to ask Kiona Buchanan, our very capable budget manager, to go over some of the slides. I'm going to reserve the right to do a little bit of color commentary, and I hope the council feels free to ask questions along the way or make your own color commentary. Okay, and so with that, Kiona, take it away.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, members of the public. So yes, we are glad to present to you the city's fiscal year 2024-25 consolidated annual operating and capital improvement budget presentation. This presentation is an overview. It's an overview, not a detail of information, which is provided in our budget book document, along with a very insightful budget message to provide you the full outline of the city's budget plan. All right, so we'll begin with the city's consolidated proposed citywide budget, and then we'll focus primarily on the general fund. Next slide, please. First slide, actually. So here we have our citywide budget overview. It presents our budget comprised of the following fund types: our general fund, Measure IT, special revenue funds, proprietary funds, and debt service funds. Collectively, our revenues for fiscal year 2024-25 are $389.5 million. And our expenses collectively amongst those fund types are $406.3 million rounded. As you can see, our revenues and expenses are over 55% of our citywide budget. Most of these funds are also supported by fund balance carryovers. And as you can see, the general fund, again, is over 15% of that share of the total citywide budget, which will be our focus of this presentation. Next slide. All right. So Mark has already kind of did the honor of speaking in terms of where we are. Would you like to present the information?
Well, just as a comment on this particular slide, the unassigned general fund reserves approximately 172 million actually, and I think we're closer to 198 million in total reserves because, of course, we have reserves for OPEBs, the post-employment benefits, and some other things like sick leave and vacation leave and that sort of thing. But at any rate, it's I think we may have a slide later on towards the conclusion of the presentation that shows just how well we're doing as a city with respect to our general fund reserves. But wanted to bring that up. Then, of course, it's important to note that when I was here earlier and I kind of talked about our low point in our fiscal health, at one point, a lot of folks aren't aware that we actually had our bond rating suspended. And so that's a little bit unusual. And the finance director myself went up to San Francisco to talk to the bond rating agencies. And after some work, we were able to get it reinstated. Many, many years ago, when the budget that I referred to in 2010-11, our rating was BBB minus. Now we're rated a AA minus, which is amongst the best ratings that you can have. And as you can see, and Kiona mentioned it, the revenues and the expenditures, it's very, very nice to have, as modest as it might seem initially, an actual positive fund balance that's projected at the end of this fiscal year, September 30th of 25, of about 121,000.
That is correct. So with that stated, we have our total general fund revenues of $224.4 million and our expenditures of $224.3 million. Next slide. Now we'll focus on the general fund revenues. So this slide here presents the general fund revenues by main revenue category. The fiscal year 25 general fund revenues are again $224.4 million, which is a whopping $34.9 million or 18.4% more than prior year. So as you can see, we provided a table to show you the differences of the current year budget compared to the next year budget and showing the increases. The main revenue categories are mostly supported by the top 5 revenue taxes, as you can see, property sales, admissions, and UUT. All other revenues also contribute to our increases at the bottom there of 44.5 projected. And this slide consists of and that particular other consists of charges for fees and services, i.e. things related to reimbursables, police, economic community development, public works, or housing protection for fees and services. Next slide.
Well, before we leave that slide, I wanted to point to the two items. I think she mentioned it, but they're really important. One's the property tax, and we'll talk a little bit later about how the assessed valuation in the city has really skyrocketed. But for a city to increase 20.7% in terms of its property taxes, and by the way, that does not reflect the latest increase in assessed valuation, which is about 20.2%, which we can talk about later, that actually won't come forward for another year or more. So we have a 20.7% increase. It's about $9 million in property tax just year over year.
And please just make it clear, that's the valuation of properties, not property tax bills.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Thank you, Mayor.
All
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. This has absolutely nothing to do with your property tax rising 20.7%. By law under Prop 13 in 1978, your property tax, if you look at it last year, can only go up 2%. Over what the property tax bill was this year. So that's a good point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then the other thing that I want to draw to your attention is, well, actually two more, and they kind of go hand in hand. The permits and fees at 45.4%. I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, that speaks to the level of development and kind of goes hand in hand with the increase in property values and assessed valuation. And then business license tax went up 25%. Went up 25%, $2 million from $8 million last year to $10 million this year. That tells you that folks have a lot of confidence and they're coming to Inglewood and they want to open businesses.
Next slide. So I'll give you a little bit more of that substance of increases as well. This is our top 5 main general fund revenues. Of the main revenue categories, the top 5 general fund revenues collectively have increased from 77 million to 139.5 million. That is 82.3% collectively over the last 5 years. The fiscal year 24-25 budget anticipates an increase of 13.8 million, mostly steady in terms of our property taxes and a few others, and admissions taxes. Now, in addition to our property and admissions tax, next slide, I wanted to show you what our major contributors to the general fund revenue growth are. Referring back to what Mark had said when he started with property and admissions. So as you can see here, these are our major contributors to the city's revenue growth for 24-25. We have property tax, admissions tax, BLF, which goes in line with property, UUT taxes, and other tax and revenues that we expect or to anticipate and perform well. So I'll go through them just a little bit. Our property tax, as mentioned, has increased 9.1 million. That's 20% higher than last year. This increase is attributed to our experience now with the preliminary net taxable value of the properties in Inglewood. And I think we also made mention to a statement inside the message for good measure. The city's 20.2 year-over-year increase in assessed value exceeds the county's average as well, which theirs is 4.85. That's well over 400% that we've exceeded there. I think that's actually been the last 2 or 3 years that we've exceeded them.
But let's not lose that. The average valuation for the county is 4.85%.
Double ours.
And so ours has gone up over 4 times, 400% increase over what the county experienced. That means property on the average here is worth 20% more than it was last year.
Yes.
All right.
That's correct. And second to that, from property, we have admissions tax. Revenues are projected to be 19.1 million. That's the total value, but an increase of 3 million or 19%. The budgeted increase is based on an actual trend and the change in the CPI over the last 3 years. I would like to say that we are still probably a little conservative in our estimate of what we're projecting there, but as of now, that's basically what we are presenting. Again, VLF goes in line with property in terms of how it rises annually, not an exact percentage, but the average of how it increases. So we have an increase of 1 million, which is 4.6% higher. And then we have our utility users taxes. They are projected to be a total of 18 million, 18.6, which is 700,000 or 4% higher. Now, this increase is attributed to the electric with the slight offset in change from telephone and gas. And electric is constantly increasing just based on the change in the increase in development. So we do anticipate that to continue as a trend, steady and increasing. In terms of the other here is specific to other taxes and or revenues anticipated to perform well. We are anticipating to receive revenues from the Intuit Dome. This is their first year of opening, as well as additional business taxes, which Mark's presented, upwards of 2 million, as well as additional franchise taxes, and some whopping fees and services that we expect to receive, some being reimbursable and others just based on contractual.
Can I jump in here? I just want to point out, as you look at we're not a general fund.
No, we're not a
I'm
general
a slide
fund yet.
ahead. See next slide.
Yes. So that concludes our increases for the revenues. Next slide. General fund.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to point out here, and Kiona would probably get to it in a moment, but I'm anxious to clarify it. We show the capital outlay as far as the expenditures being just a little over, about 1%, okay? But that's the general fund. We actually have about a total of 49 million in the budget through a number of different outside funding sources, grants and local return money for transportation and that sort of thing. What we've decided to do again this year, which I believe has been done for the last couple of years, is to be very, very conservative in bringing you the capital improvement project budget. because too often we budget quite a bit, and then as it comes towards the middle and certainly the end of the year, we find that we didn't need quite that much, or in some cases, projects have been delayed. So in the past couple of years, the city manager has brought to you approval for these items and then ask for an amendment to the budget. And we expect to do the same thing over the course of the next 12 months. But just to point that out, this year, for instance, we anticipate spending $18 million of general fund, and that wasn't reflected in last year's budgeted approval. So the $2.15 million is just at the start of the year. These are the projects that we're certain we're going to go forward with and have funding for, probably just for the first quarter or so. Okay.
Yes, that is correct. So here we have our general fund budget by appropriation, which is our expenditures by appropriation. We felt this would be a better presentation to give you a better idea of what holds most of the support or need in terms of our appropriations, whether it's personnel, M&O, and so forth. So the general fund expenditure by appropriation and percent of budget is what we presented here. The total is $224.3 million. As you can see, personnel services is supported by well over 57.4% of the general fund budget, and operations at 39.6%. As you can see, most of the general fund expenses are supported, again, those two big pies, by just personnel and operations, which leads us to the next slide when we discuss, next slide, the major contributors to the general fund expenditure increases. So that previous slide was presented to give you the idea of, like I said, where most of the support of our expenses are shared. And so, as you can see here, personnel services, our major contributors to the city's expenditure growth are as follows. We have our personnel services costs. They have increased $8.6 million from prior year. And this is the result of the city's negotiated agreement with all the bargaining groups, in addition to, as noted, some staff augmentation, as well as the costs associated with health and PERS. So of that $8.6 million, it also includes healthcare cost increase of about $833,000. That's 4.7% higher. And then our CalPERS cost, which is about half of the personnel cost, at $4.1 million higher at 15.7%. In addition to the personnel costs, we had operational cost, M&O, of increase of $9.5 million. That's about 12% increase. Those increases were, as identified here, for increased service levels, contract services for median landscaping for some of our champion fields at our parks. We have our fire contract, which is our annual fee, which is ongoing, as well as our support for special assessment and liability insurance premiums. Those all resulted in some higher costs associated in our operations group that made them go up by $9.5 million. Now, though our one-time expenditures here doesn't present a high value in terms of what the change was from prior year to current, I just wanted to point out the fact that that's the net change. We also had some one-times in previous budget, and that is the net change. We currently have about $1.25 million in the budget for the general plan update, as well as maybe close to $100,000 for the emergency operations plan. So that value you see there of $36,000 is just the net difference. And circling back to Mark's statement about the capital improvement projects, yes, we currently have, just on the onside of budget adoption, $3 million in capital improvement projects. Though it states that that's 100% increase, that is based on adoption. We currently have $18 million of obligated expenses for general fund in our current budget, which was done by way of amendment. And again, we will be putting forth others for the general fund that will increase the $3 million as time goes, but they will be presented upon award. Okay? Next slide. So this slide here provides the organizational summary of staff changes. The personnel staffing chart contained in this recommended budget reflects a net increase of only 2 full-time positions. We're going from a count of 735 to 737 next year. The increase in the personnel change is offset by a reduction in 4 full-time equivalents. So that is a net change. There were no changes to public safety personnel staffing, and that's specific to sworn only. Next slide.
Okay, I'm going to cover a couple of the notable organization and personnel changes in the proposed budget for you. Before I do, though, I want to say that we kind of glossed over the fact that even though our general fund is increasing 10% and our revenues are going up by 8%, we're not expanding the workforce just because we have the money. We are making a modest increase from 735 to 737. That's actually offset by a reduction in 4 full-time equivalents. We are holding overtime basically in check across the organization. We're not going to become bloated. I mean, that's our obligation and our pledge to the residents and to you as the legislative body here. By comparison, and I'm not suggesting anything about any other cities, but Santa Monica, that has fewer residents, actually has well over 2,000 employees. Maybe you remember the exact number. I think it's 2,100 now. So,
400
yeah, yeah. So and most of the other cities actually have more personnel than we do, and yet we spend equal or more dollars, municipal dollars, tax dollars on providing services. So I think it's fair to conclude that we're doing it in a very efficient manner. And we're using contract services when we need to as well. So the proposed changes, and again, this is an interesting budget. We have, and credit again to those that have come before me and to all the operating department heads out there, we've become very efficient and we're producing at a much higher level in terms of performance metrics. So this is really kind of a maintenance of effort budget. And in other eras, that may not have been a good thing. But when you come up from 600 trees a year to 8,000 trees a year, and you're doing more sidewalks, more alleyways, and so forth than you've ever done before, at some point you say, this is good. And we can get a little better, and we'll always strive to do a little bit better. But in terms of glitz and glamour and a whole host of new programs, and we don't see the need right now. And so many of them are coming through anyways, and they're starting to be sponsored by nonprofits and by those who want to invest and be part of the community at large. So, but real quickly, we're going to restore the library director's position in this budget. That the only reason a city of our size who has a library that we have has not had a library director in recent years was a budgetary concern. Now, especially in that we're looking at a $60 million renovation of the library, both seismically and to expand its purpose to become a leading learning and innovation resource center as well as a library. It really is time to restore the library director's position. We plan on, with your agreement, we plan on elevating a superintendent in the Parks and Recreation Department to a assistant director. Provides a clear path for succession and for authority in the absence of the director. We're going to combine the housing protection and the Section 8 Housing and Community Development Block Grant departments and rename it Housing and CDBG Department. We're going to transfer the budget division to the office, to the administrative office. We're going to transfer street and landscaping division of the Public Works Department to Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. We're renaming, I know Brian's happy to hear this, we're renaming the Office of Emergency Services to the Office of Emergency Management to have greater continuity and consistency with what they're called, these same functions at the state and federal level. We are eliminating a vestige of the old parking enforcement unit that we used to have in the city before we went first to one contractor and now we're with LAS. We actually kept about 6 members of that group, and quite frankly, because they worked better for us here at that time. But now both the superintendents that were part of that unit, one is retired and the other one has announced her retirement next month in November. It's just a good opportunity to shift the balance of those services over to LAS. We'll retain one of the people here, one of the six, as the city's liaison. And of course, Bill continues to be our liaison from LAS here. And then they'll pick up the crossing guard services as well at that time. Okay, so those are the most notable changes.
All right. Next slide, please. So here we have our capital improvement projects budget. The capital improvement project budget is projected to be 49 million. As you can see, it is consisting of various sources of funding in support of the actual improvement projects. Again, we're initially dedicating 3 million to get started of the 49 from the general fund. Of the other projects we have, or other funded projects we have, in total, there are 16 projects in the process that will continue into fiscal year 25 and 32 new projects that are part of 25's budget. These projects include a broad range of parks, roads, alleys, traffic control systems, sewer, water systems, sidewalks, and other upgrades. I do want to point out the better half there of the CIP is our Measure M capital projects at approximately 17 million. That's one of the largest of the capital improvements. It's funded for street and roadway projects, which is to construct the Inglewood transit systems improvements and construct the new dynamic lane control system. The detail and descriptions of each of the projects is located in the back of the book within its own section. If you would like to read further on a little bit more detail of the description of these particular projects and the design of what we have budgeted for them. Next slide.
Great,
Yes,
looking
we're
forward.
looking
That means we're getting close to the end of the presentation. I just wanted to point out a few items. Of course, we're looking at the big item, the main library renovation. We're fortunate to be able to be completing, I think, next month, maybe in November, the Morningside Library renovation, and now we're looking at the main library, and we hope to get in some groundbreaking perhaps sometime next year. And more of that, of course, will be coming to you. Some of it has been presented to you thus far, but more will come forward to the council in the months ahead. The general plan update, aside from the city's charter and the IMC, the general plan updates, one of the most important documents the city puts together. Most unincorporated areas of a county generally want to incorporate and become cities because that gives them greater control over their land planning and usage. And so the general plan update, that hasn't been done in a number of years. And I think we're well underway. I understand that the first, I think it was the first public outreach and workshop occurred last weekend, and it was very successful. Hotels, we have at least 2 or 3 hotels already in the planning and permitting process, and developers are coming forward in an unusually quick pace, demonstrating an interest to want to present plans to the council for future hotels as well. The major projects that we mentioned under capital improvement, there's going to be some projects underway at the park. They'll involve replacement of the aging turf at Vincent Park, probably in the neighborhood of about $1.25 to $1.5 million. And then there'll be water well improvements as well. And then, of course, there's Inglewood Transit Center, and I think you probably already well acquainted with where we are with that. We have a bit of construction financing gap that we hope to be able to close before long, and then we'll turn our attention to the operating and maintenance schedule for the years ahead. Factors that can kind of destabilize a little bit to varying degrees. Yeah, disruption is kind of a big word now, isn't it? Factors that can disrupt any municipal budget that I just think is important to remind you of. One of them, of course, is unfunded state mandates. The folks in Sacramento, like in other states, sometimes they have a propensity to decide what's good for everybody, and they require cities to perform certain tasks, undertake certain duties. Sometimes it has to do with law enforcement. Sometimes it has to do with the environment. Sometimes it has to do with development requirements and inspections. And most of the time, though, they don't involve any pass-through of funds. So the cost of providing those fall upon the cities. Contract changes, they're always something. We have some major contractors with the fire department, and although it's mostly covered by fees, the trash folks as well, the waste control folks. Uncontrollable personnel costs, PERS and health. These are always kind of a wild card. Health costs go up, and we have obligations to our workforce that are parts of our MOU and they're contractual, and so many times we have to be able to absorb those increases. And we do our best, by the way, to anticipate those things and to get bids and quotes and estimates from the various agencies, but sometimes that happens. And by the way, PERS, you may have heard, but PERS did so well this last year. I think they did somewhere between 9 and 10%. I'm going to say about 9.5%.
9.5.
9.5, all right. 9.5%. That when PERS does exceptionally well or exceptionally poorly, they are mandated to undertake a review of their discount rate. And this year, they are going to do that, and there's some concern that they might want to lower it. I mean, years ago, you might remember it was 8%, then it dropped to about 7.5%, 7, and I think most recently, I think it's about 6.8%. If it drops further, okay, that means the money that we have is not earning as much with them. And what do they do then? They say your annual contributions have to go up. The flip side, though, is the unobligated pension funds that we have, that we owe money on. They don't inflate quite as quickly because the interest that they charge for them is less. But it's worth us keeping an eye on. Okay, so that's the PERS. Legislation. Sometimes legislation can have, and I'm not even talking about legislative mandates. I'm just talking about legislation that can have an impact. One that's worked its way through the legislature now, and I think it's passed both houses. It's on the governor's desk. It's SB 549. What it actually does is it gives the right to the Indian tribes to sue other, gaming enterprises. And so we're a little concerned about that because if for some reason they were able to close our casinos or even to affect them in a remarkable way, our casino revenues are approximately $5 million a year to the general fund. Okay, inflation. I don't have to say anything about inflation. We just say it around. We're always subject to that coming around. And last time, of course, as everybody knows, a year or two ago, it was the highest in about 25 years. That has an effect on everything, all the goods and services that we purchase, particularly things like fuel to run our fleets and so forth. And finally, labor shortages. Labor shortages can have an adverse impact. It causes more money for turnovers, for recruitment costs, and perhaps most importantly, it can have a severe impact on overtime. Okay, so that's that. I guess that's it. So we
Okay.
welcome your question.
I want to go to Councilman
Next
Padilla
slide.
first, but we have another slide?
It's to say thank you. Now, do you have any questions?
All right. Right. Before I go to Councilman Padilla, I have two slides that you're going to add to this discussion.
Okay.
So if Thomas
Can we go to the next slide, please?
Okay, so what I saw were some comparisons that stood out, that jumped off the page. In 2010, 2011, the proposed spending plan was $80.4 million. We actually had $62.8 million because we projected a $17.6 million deficit.
Yeah.
To this year, for the coming fiscal year, $224 million, an increase of 279%. If you go off the actual $62.8 million that we had, it's over 340%. That's an incredible increase in the spending plan in that period of time. Our general fund reserves at that time were zero. With the $26 million carryover, because we have about 30 days left in this fiscal year, we should end up in 2025 with $196 million. But what does that mean? Now, the general fund is like the checkbook for a city. And everybody may have money in their checking account, but you got to pay the house notes, you got to pay the water bill, you got to pay that lease payment on that expensive car that you got if you're an Inglewood employee. You got to spend money. So what really matters is what you don't have to spend. That's the true comparison for cities. And so we're going to go, we expect to have 196 million of money that we don't have to spend next year. Now, we'll go to the next slide, but what does that put us with other cities? Well, let's look at the other cities. Right now, today, in the money that we don't have to spend out of our checkbook, it's 172 million. Hawthorne is 94. Carson is 79. Torrance, 63 million. Santa Monica, 45 million. That shocked me to no end. Torrance, 63 million. Beverly Hills, 34 million, and on and on. Inglewood,
Where, L.A.?
oh, well,
look
City
at
of
LA?
Los,
City of Los Angeles,
like is 1.3 million that they don't have to spend. So what I'm trying to say is that the city has positioned itself financially that I no longer feel fortunate when people come from Pasadena and Redondo and Manhattan Beach to work here, because this is the place to work right now. Am I right, Tony? All right.
Good answer, Tony.
But I have to tell you guys, this is unheard of, and I'm sure Mark and Aloy will agree with me. It's unheard of for Inglewood to have more money than the Beverly Hills, the Torrances. This has turned everything inside out. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Padilla because he has to go at 3.
Yeah, no, thank you, and a great presentation as always. You guys do a great job, and what I like about these presentations is we try to be very informative and try to do it in simple, I guess, language, if you will. So we're not trying to talk over people, because it's very, very important for us, for the community and the business owners that are investing in this community and the residents that are buying properties to move into this residence, or folks that are just looking to come to Inglewood, to have an understanding of where we're at as a city, with a safe community, thanks to our police department, great public safety, our emergency office management, Office of Emergency Management, as it being called now, so we can be prepared for any type of emergency or disaster. But then also a community that's proud of being able to continue to provide top-tier customer service to our residents and our business owners. And at the same time, being very responsible as we spend our money, right? Making sure that we're not just, as the city manager said, okay, now we have more money, let's spend it. No, we're not. We're being very, again, responsible on how we do it, so that we can have a reserve that's as impressive as we have up here of 172.2. Unheard of 10 years ago, right? To the days where the unions were picketing in front of the mayor's in-laws, because of some of these budget cuts that we had taken. Drastic measures nonetheless. But at that time, we needed to do that. And kudos to our staff, because they have managed to do more with less, managed to keep our community, with the needs that they have to have, right? Our water structure, right? So we can have safe drinking water. That became recently, Mr. Atwell and Tony almost had to address a resident that was concerned because somebody told them that our water wasn't safe. So we don't listen to folks that just want to go out there and try to make Inglewood look bad. We are proof in the pudding of where we are financially. So I just want to say kudos to the community for believing in us, helping us make these transitions and these changes. Kudos to staff for sticking with us through some of these changes. I know it was hard, especially when we started to contract out simple things like tree trimming, and we contracted out our parking enforcement and situations like that. But we did it because that's what needed to be done, right? And we are now reaping the benefits of some of those wise decisions. I will say this, I had an opportunity this weekend on Saturday. Bernard McCrumbie did the presentation with Next Level regarding our general plan update, as the city manager mentioned. And the response from the community was amazing. There was like 40-plus people there because they care about where we're going to our next level as the city of Inglewood. So again, just thank you to everybody. Thank you. This is a living document, as we noted in the book. If you read it and you look at the key word there, it's a living document that's going to change. And we'll come back and revisit it. But I want to thank you for a great presentation.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councilman Morales now. He's one of the two people here that were here when we didn't know where are we going, and he has perspective because he actually preceded me by 7 years on the council. So he knows what the years were like year to year when they got sidewalks. It was what they were going to get out of the budget. But
Yeah.
Councilman Morales.
I put together about 3 or 4 slides. Relax, relax. No, it's been, I gotta tell you, this feels like a celebration today. It really does. I mean, we've come so long, and I don't know how long I'm gonna talk, but I'm gonna say a couple of things. First of all, when I first came in, Mark had been, Mr. Wembert had been here for what, a year, something like that? At the time, you know, folks had been really kind of selling some of the property we had to make the budget a few times, which is the first time I learned from our city manager, hey, you know, this probably isn't the best way to go. This is how it looks in the future. It kind of startled me, you know. When you're not on the council, you think people aren't doing sidewalks and streets just because they don't want to. You don't realize that it takes money, it takes balance, it takes everything. Then, you know, we were here for a few tough years. The first year, I remember that I was supposed to get 19 sidewalks done in my district. Crazy low, right? So I went and argued, and we got a couple more for my district, but that's where we were. Terrible, terrible kind of situation for a city like us. Then, you know, a lot of things happened. You know, the council changed. We got into a situation where the housing market overall in LA County had dropped, and it really hurt us. Mark had left. We needed a new city manager. At the time, we were a 4-man council for different reasons. And we called Mark. I don't know if you remember that. And we asked him to come. And he said he wouldn't come unless we did some tough decisions at the time. I don't know if you remember that, but he laid it out, and I couldn't believe the stuff he was talking about. We were like, man, these are gonna be big decisions, right? It ended up that some elections happened. We end up with Mayor Butts here. And then it started to become real, you know, kind of laying out, you know, the things we had to do. I think we laid off close to between
We cut 139
60
positions.
yeah,
69 people were in them, though.
right. We laid off about 69 people. That was extremely difficult. We raised the water rates 43%, all in one chunk. We
Got
didn't
rid of
fill any
lifetime medical.
positions. We cut down services, you know, hours at the library, services at the park. We cut the hours down, renegotiated with 6 unions. Lifetime medical got taken away. Thus, they visited
My
mayor's
house.
house. And that's where we were. And then, you know, it's written in the message a little bit about how bringing back the forum really kind of sparked a lot. And what it was is that, you know, I really started to see how much it really mattered to be balanced, a balanced city, because, see, real investors, they look at that. They look at whether there's a stable council. They look at whether the business of the city is taken care of, because that's where they're going to invest. They won't invest otherwise. So at the time, They came in, they were coming in, they must have done 20 visits before they started to come in, and then they wanted us to have skin in the game. Our last $18 million of redevelopment money was left. We encumbered it. We got beat up for it.
Repeatedly.
And the forum jumped on it. They invested another 82 million, and the rest is history with the forum. That, of course, triggered so much other investment, and then the big deals happened where, we were quiet for years and everything happened. But even during that time, we still did not have all our services back. It was mentioned the library. The library, we're maybe one of 3 cities our size that have our own library. There's Santa Monica, Palos Verdes, I think Pasadena has theirs, and we have ours. But
Santa Monica's still closed.
Right, and we were the city that wasn't supposed to survive with the library, and we kept it. We shrank the hours, and now we're talking about bringing the director position back. That's huge, huge. During some of those years, PERS was mentioned too. They had some good years, and they said, okay, so you don't have to pay us that much the next few years. And then they had some bad years, and they said, oh, we're going to need that money now. I mean, talk about a squeeze for a city like ours when we had nothing. So, in a way, this is a humongous turnaround in what the budget has become. But with it, I have to say, during those years, a lot of our staff stayed, a lot of them. And I'm so happy to know you guys. I always tell everybody how talented we are here, how much talent exists, because you guys stuck it out. You helped us build back, and thank you. Some of you guys came from the bottom all the way up. And it's because, honestly, you guys stuck it out, and we have what we have in terms of history and everything else. That being said, we are where we are right now because of the fiscal management. Again, Mr. Weinberg said, hey, just because we have it doesn't mean we spent it when we don't need to spend it. Mm-hmm. That's true for the last few years. We've been very, very cautious about not spending our success. And that is, I think, paramount to what's happening here today. So now as we move forward, we start to see the expansion of our services back, our improvement to our library. A city our size just doesn't do their libraries again. They just don't do it. I'm glad our parks are coming back. We're gonna have really nice parks. There's plans in place, and there's this certain excitement, right? There's a certain excitement with the city and with our employees and everybody else. So, my comments are really just kind of based on the history of it and everything else, because I remember the years where all we sat up here and we said, hey, it's a living document. We're going to get to change it here soon. It doesn't have to stay this way. Those are the comments we would make. This is incredible. This is incredible. Now, that being said, thank you for all the work that gets put into the budget. I know the mayor's constantly getting on everybody's nerves over there, but he does his share.
I live for that.
He does his share of it, and it's something to be proud of. So I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the city. I'm proud of staff, and I'm proud of this budget. That honestly, it really does feel like a celebration this year. So thank you very much, everybody. Those are my comments.
Okay. Councilwoman Falk.
Thank you. Eloy, I don't think I've heard you talk so much ever before.
Don't get me started.
That was amazing. I just want to say the mayor has a saying that he says all the time, and I love it, and it kind of captures a lot. And it's what's your saying?
What, the only thing that's changing in Inglewood is everything except the people?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, I know that there's a lot of history here because you guys lived and breathed the changes in the history of Inglewood. But I do just want to say that that saying says everything now because it has changed. I mean, when we look at the challenges that Inglewood had when you first came into office and when Eloy was already in office for 7 years, and how we were looking at bankruptcy for the city and all the challenges with the forum and everything. And we have been able to turn that around. And now property taxes are higher, the increase is amazing at 20.7%.
Property valuation is
The
higher.
property
not taxes.
valuation.
Taxes are the same. All right.
And then we have the Intuit Dome here, we have SoFi Stadium, we have so many improvements citywide and so much to be proud of. And, I look at you too, and I think that you guys you play a big role in it, and including Mark Weinberg, right? And so I'm really happy and excited and blessed to be in this seat and to be able to be on this team right now. I know that you guys did all the hard work previously, and I feel like I'm kind of getting the icing on the cake right now because I didn't have to live through a lot of that. But I know that I'm on the right team here because all of the challenges that we went through, and to be able to bring Inglewood back. And now you look at the fund balance and we're at the top of the list.
By a lot.
And we have beat out cities that we've only heard have always, done better than Inglewood. Now we're doing better than those cities. And that's a huge milestone right now. You probably won't see that for a lot of other cities. So I want to congratulate our mayor. I want to congratulate our councilman, our dean, for all the hard work that they put in. I want to congratulate our city manager and our City of Inglewood team for sticking with us through the hard times. And one thing that's really important is that the mayor pointed out how many 757 employees. We made that huge change with less than half of the staff of a lot of those other cities. And we've come back and now we're bigger and better than any other city in the nation. And there's nowhere else to go but to continue to go up. And that's where we're going here in the city of Inglewood. So I'm just really proud to be in this seat, and I just am ecstatic to be a part of this amazing team. Thank you.
And to close, one of the things that Councilman Morales didn't mention was everybody had to take a 10% wage cut, 10% furlough. Since that time, we've increased wages overall in the city by 50%, in the police department even more. We gave a $5.7 million property tax rebate that'll go in the mail by December for every residential property owner in the city. That's unheard of in this country. That's never happened before. I've worked in 3 different cities, City of Los Angeles, Inglewood, and Santa Monica. When I came back here, it was always, everybody always looked at me like, well, you were in Santa Monica. You came from a city that was better than Inglewood. You see, and we were just aspirational at that time. We were doing what we could. We gave our last $18 million for the deal for the forum, but we also insisted that they pay Faithful Central top dollar for it. They were going to take it in fire sale because they were losing it to foreclosure, and we insisted that they paid the top dollar for it. So that $18 million went to the $22 million that they were paid, so they were made whole. Even when we weren't doing well, we were looking out for the entities in the city. For Inglewood to have $172 million now and project $196 million for next year, we're no longer aspirational. We are the best. Do you hear me?
Very good.
And with that, yeah. With that, we'll go to 01.
Staff report recommending the mayor and council members introduce the attached salary ordinance for fiscal year 2024 through 2025.
Motion to waive further reading.
Second.
Madam City
Second.
Clerk.
Council members Morales.
Aye.
Fogg.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye, I'll introduce. A1,
Oh, nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
CM1,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to lengthen the celebration too long, but I did want to make a couple of comments. First of all, to Councilman Morales, I absolutely remember when I got a call from Mayor Pro Tem Ralph Franklin. He asked me to come down. We talked about it. It was the most reciprocal interview I've ever been involved in because I had a lot of questions to ask them and so forth. And then when he came back out, he said, well, we're offering you the job. And then he said, well, you don't look very happy, Mark. And I remember what I said to him. I said, now I was talking to him as a friend. I said, Ralph, this is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath to bring us back out of close near insolvency. So I'm so happy that I was able to be a part of it, and it took an enormous amount of courage from all the members on this council and the councils that preceded and the councils going forward. Councilwoman Falk, I have to take issue with you. You're not an innocent bystander here. Already since I've been on board here for this last year, I've seen you make several courageous decisions, make votes that are important to the city now and its future. And so never minimize your role. Everybody's played a very, very important part in this. So with that, I just want to say a couple things about our staff. I mean, the operating departments, they all do a great job, and that goes without saying for their respective initiatives and programs that come forth during the course of the year. They are lavished with accolades from this body, and I know they appreciate it, and I appreciate it on their behalf. But what I want to talk about today is budget, and I want to start with Keona Buchanan. A lot of people don't realize that I think they do. A municipal budget's a whole different animal from your home budget. You have dozens of funds. We talk about the general fund most prominently, $224 million, but the total operating budget was $406 million, I think, right? And then about $200 million additional funds that she has to account for and be responsible for. So you're talking about a $600 million undertaking, and dozens of funds and probably 15 different operating departments, and she negotiates with them, and I give her a lot of latitude because I have nothing but trust and confidence in her.
Aww.
Okay, she's been my budget partner since I was first here. Yeah, and then in 2005, when Councilman Morales talks about what we talked about. So I have an enormous appreciation for you, okay? And then we have a couple other members of the budget team that are just great, okay? And I want to single them out, and I like them to both stand at the same time. Claria Cabrera and Parrish Gibson. Okay? They're the soldiers, they're in the trenches, and they're doing great work, and we appreciate it. And it's certainly not last but least, I've got two great ACMs in Jose Cortez and my senior guy here, Louis Atwell. And, not often do you get blessed with two ACMs, both who have great knowledge and expertise and good understanding of the budget. And you feel like you can hand it over to them, to either one of them, and they're going to do a great, great job. And really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. And so I think with that, I'm gonna pass it on. That concludes.
Okay, a couple more things. You want to definitely introduce Sharon and Maria because they're part of your team.
Oh, God.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you so much.
that's-
I knew. I said, there's something
it's-
else.
it's okay.
Yes, maybe saving the best for last because I hired Sharon when I first came back to the city in the period we're talking about, 2010-11. I was greeted by a finance director who said, welcome back, Mark. Welcome back. Good luck. I don't think we can make payroll in a couple of months, so I'm leaving. He took a job at UCLA, and I was so fortunate to be able to find Sharon Quokey, who is now serving both really as the chief financial officer and the finance director. And before that, for many, many years, really the finance director de facto. She has untangled so many financial riddles and puzzles, and it's just done a great job, in particular with residential sound insulation, a huge program, the HUD program. I certainly wouldn't even be here without her, and I really appreciate it. And I know Maria's here too, right? Where are you, Maria? the assistant finance director, and she does a great job. If it's not for her, we don't get the revenues. We don't get them recorded, and she's a queen of customer service. Great team. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, very well. And I want to tell you that a little story that the budget message, and Kiona will tell you this. I always edit the budget message, okay? This year, I didn't edit to it for two reasons. One, when Mark brought it to me, he said he'd already published it in the books. And I said, "You did what?" And then the second reason that I didn't have him go get it back out was because it was flawless. It could not have been improved upon. It was a piece of art, and it is your crowning achievement, and I'm glad that you had the moment that you deserve. Now, with this meeting, you guys need to understand there's more to come. We're just sitting here. We're just now cresting to the top. They're going to be, I think there are 5 hotels in the works right now. There's an event center in the works right now. The first movie production studio to be open in the last 45 years in LA County is in the works right now. You guys, this is, and I never make political statements, but I will say this. This does not happen without the composition of the council, the last 2 councils, and it doesn't happen if you have term limits. And I'll tell you why it doesn't happen if you have term limits. If you have term limits, the people know they're going to be here for 4, 8, at the most 12 years, but usually for 8 years. And you know what their objective is? Their objective is to make people as happy as they can while they can with the money that you have, and to spend it as far as they can. And with that as an orientation, you will never get to where we are now. Because the people with money, they look at your financial stability. They look at the way the council interacts. They look at the political stability that you have. Because political instability equates to a risk of capital. People that are going to invest millions and billions of dollars don't want to think they're going to have their permits held up because the council doesn't get along. And so we have a level of maturity in government here that I have not seen in my 50 years of public service. And I've worked for councils as chief of police. We would have 7, 8-hour council meetings in Santa Monica. When I came back here, we had 7 or 8-hour council meetings, isn't that right, Eloy? And it was all games. It was all showboating because you're on TV. It was all bringing your people, put them in the audience, and have them yell at the people you don't like. And what was the result of that? Furloughs, lose your lifetime medical, and 4 months from bankruptcy. So I want to tell you this. In the 3 cities I've worked for, never worked with a greater group of people. And I want to thank you, Eloy.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you, Mark. I want to thank you, all the employees. This has been the pinnacle of my 52-year career. Thank you, guys.
No.
It almost feels like we should close the meeting.
I
now.
know, right? I'm gonna start crying, Mayor.
And now we'll go to CI1.
Mayor, can we go back to CC1, please?
We sure can go to CC1.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Just wanted to first thank my deputy city clerk, Angela Allen, and Christine Padilla for holding it down last week at the council meeting. I had death in my family, and so that's why I wasn't in attendance. But thank you so much, Angela and Christine, for your hard work here with running the meeting and at the office. And then wanted to make mention that today is National Voter Registration Day. It's happening around the world, just not in my office. However, My office is wide open. We have fun games. We had Councilman Padilla come down earlier. Morales and Falk is on their way, and our mayor. So we want to see you guys. We're still here until 4 o'clock. So please do come down and partake in our voter registration activities today. And I do want to mention, we had someone come in today, this morning at 8 o'clock, and to register to vote, and they had never been registered, and they were 60 years old. Wow. Yes, so I'm really, really thankful for that. Also, this is Hispanic Heritage Month, and so my office will be out celebrating, and also not only celebrating but also participating with our festivities that are taking place on Saturday. We'll have a booth out there. So if you have any voter registration questions, anything related to the election, I'll be out there. My staff will be out there to answer those questions. And happy National Hispanic Heritage Month to our family. And then lastly, the Los Angeles County Assessor's Office, they have opened a new West Regional Office. It's located at 6167 Bristol Parkway, Suite 100 in Culver City. They asked that I make mention of that in case any of our residents needed to visit the new County Assessor's Office. Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my remarks.
All right, we go to CI1.
Yes, sir. Staff report recommending the mayor and council members authorize payment of outstanding invoices for a total of $512.88 for services rendered at the Family Unity Picnic held Saturday, August 24th, 2024 at Darby Park.
Move approval.
Second. Okay, Madam City Clerk.
Council members Morales,
Aye.
Fogg,
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. And so now we go to CSA 2. The successor agency is in session.
Yes, Mayor. Approval of the minutes of the meeting held on July 9th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Successor agency members Morales,
Aye.
Fogg,
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. We'll adjourn the successor agency. The Housing Authority is in session. H2.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting held on July 9th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Housing Authority members Morales,
Aye.
Fogg,
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. We'll adjourn the Housing Authority. The Finance Authority is in session. F1.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting held on July 9th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Finance Authority members Morales,
Aye.
Fogg,
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. And so, let me see, the Parking Authority is in session. P1.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting held on July 9th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Parking Authority members Morales,
Aye.
Fogg,
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. And so now the JPA is in session. JPA 1.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting held on July 9th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Joint Powers Authority members Morales,
Aye.
Fogg,
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. We'll adjourn the JPA. There are no appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. We're at public comment. Any persons wishing to address the city council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered on the agenda may do so at this time for 1 minute. Sir. Right there in the back with your own little platform.
Hi, my name is Arturo Martinez. I intended to run for City Council District 4, collected 54 signatures. Out of the 54, 16 were negated. Several of my personal family members, Hispanic members, signatures were invalidated. I find it ironic that on Hispanic Heritage Month and on voter registration day, Jaime Salcedo, Rafaela Salcedo's signatures were negated and invalidated. I am not on the ballot. I went to the county registrar's office, I spoke with Ms. Thompson, and I hit walls. And I understand I'm not gonna be on the ballot. I'm happy with the mayor, I'm happy with Mr. Elo Morales. My issue is with Theon Falk. She represents us. With that, I am pointing my efforts towards both Leslie Jones and Angelique Johnson, which are very fine women, I think represent our district well. That's all, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And with that, we'll close public comment. We'll start with Councilwoman Falk.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to express my condolences to you for the loss of your loved one, City Clerk. We did miss you last week. And then I will be down for voter registration day, and I think that's amazing that you have that one resident that's never voted and registered today. So that's amazing. I want to remind our residents that we will have our Hispanic Heritage event this Saturday. I believe it starts at 11 a.m. So please make plans to come out and enjoy the day and celebrate. We are a melting pot city. That's one thing that I love the most about the city of Inglewood. So hopefully we'll see all you guys out there. I did attend the Chenwa Second Avenue Street meeting. That was last Saturday. The mayor was also out there, and they had a great meeting. We had lots of different presenters come out, present. We presented. And it was just a great way to be able to connect with residents and hear their concerns and make sure that, you know, the city and myself are addressing them. So it was a really good meeting. Glad that I was able to attend. And then also, last Saturday was the morning, well, actually, it was the whole weekend. Morningside High School Alumni Association, every year, they have a whole weekend and they celebrate, and people come from all over the nation to come back for this Morningside Alumni Association event. They had a picnic in the park. It was at Edward Vincent, and it was absolutely amazing. And then they had on Sunday at the Miracle Theater, they actually had a comedy event. And so it was great. They call me the alumni, honorary alumni from Morningside because I always support them. So glad to have them there this weekend and be able to support them. Also, I want to wish a very happy birthday and congratulations to a pastor in District 4, Pastor Harold Mitchell, who is the pastor of Emmanuel Rest MBC. He celebrates 32 years in the pastoral ministry. So congratulations to him, Pastor Harold Mitchell. And then also our commissioner, she's the Rental Housing Board, actually member commissioner, Benice Brown. And she's, I'm going to say 21 years young. She looks gorgeous there. Happy birthday, Benice Brown. Her husband, Henry Brown, is also one of our commissioners, and they are beloved residents in the city of Inglewood. And then lastly, to one of our very own city family members, Mr. Chris Jackson. Happy birthday. Wave your hand now, wave your hand. He's been in the
like a
family
school
for
picture.
a very long time.
High school picture.
7th grade.
And we just love him. So happy birthday. And that was yesterday. So I'm sure you're still celebrating. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. So I usually don't have pictures, but I got pictures today because I was so thrilled about this budget report. And so in the time I've been here, when I was in Santa Monica, I would see like presidents all the time, movie stars all the time, right? And but when I came back to Inglewood, there's no more movie stars, right? Oh,
All excited.
that's my picture, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about me.
Okay.
I was
Okay,
like, "Damn,
Eli,
you
they got
talk
your
about-"
pictures queued up, so I'll save it.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I mean, this is one of the days.
I couldn't wait.
This is one of the days. The you know, I don't blame you, man. There was so much emotion. I don't think people know how it felt all those years and the relief that we have in today.
That it worked out.
And I know, honestly, Mark, I know you feel it too. I mean, you were here during some tough years, so I don't blame you guys at all. It feels like a relief. I mean, when you are here and people are constantly pointing the finger and you go to places and people downgrade your city and you know deep down inside we're gonna get out of this. So felt good today. Also, Mark did a good job of bringing up Artie Fields. I want to point that out because he was here during some tough years, and the first few years were really tough. He carried out our will. You know, sometimes I know he took some hits for us, and he put up with us, and that was 10 long years. Some really strong years, and the last couple, I think Mark was around work with him, and that was a great transition that happened. So everything was, we couldn't have written it better. So I want to point that out. Also, just want to say happy birthday to Chris before I forget, man. You're a friend, and you've been with us for a long time. But also thank the Overtures who invited us to the office opening of the Great Beginnings for Black Babies on Saturday. That was good to be out there and see some really old school Inglewood folks that put that together. That's always nice for me. And then, of course, invite everybody out for the 21st, which is Saturday, to Hispanic Heritage Celebration. And it somehow in this country, it starts September 15th, goes to October 15th. And it's because there's about 15 or 16 Latin American countries who celebrate their independence throughout the next 30 days. So that's why they do it that way. And we get to celebrate ours, and we have everybody here. So congratulations to all of us. Yes. Anyway, we will see you out there on Saturday. Thank you, Mayor. Ready, go.
I said, what is so funny, you know? But anyway, so check this out, though. This is a big day for me, because we're not just aspirational anymore. We're on the top. And that's what I've always sought to be in every position that I've held in government. When I went to LAWA, we were on the bottom in aviation security. When I left, we were #1 by the TSA. When I left Inglewood, we had the 3-peat Showtime Lakers, the Kings, 60 concerts a year. The racetrack was doing 43,000 people a day. And we had cut the crack cocaine trade, and that allowed us to negotiate with the Raiders and the NFL. Proud of that. Went to Santa Monica, cut the crime rate 64% the time I was there. Proud of that. Got rid of the crack cocaine in the parks, managed the homeless problem. 3rd Street Promenade took off. Richest city in the South Bay, richest city actually per capita in the county at that time. Proud of it. Saw lots of movie stars while I was there, lots of presidents, 5 presidents. Okay, I was proud, I was from Santa Monica. Came back here, it was terrible. It was still, I said, I don't get any worse than this. Now, since then, I've met Issa Rae. We gave her a key to the city. Go to the next one. I don't know what this is going to be. Sidney Poitier. Okay. Gets go on. Cosm opened. It's Stan Kroenke and Otto Malley, and the Cosm GM, and his name is Jeff. And that view from Cosm of the SoFi is beautiful.
Which one are you?
I'm the one in the tux. Omar Epps, Byron Scott. Byron Scott, I used to be behind the bench working overtime as a sergeant when he was with the Lakers, and now he's like a buddy of mine. We were in San Diego for the 25th wedding anniversary of Cedric the Entertainer, and he knows me then since I've been in Inglewood. Cedric the Entertainer, that's Omar Epps. This was the street fair that Dion was talking about. Let me tell you something. This is the most serious street fair block club that we have in the city. They put out chairs. There must be like 60, 70 people out there, and we have a serious discussion with the community. That's Hervé Gordon. He's the president of the Century Heights Association. Go on. These kids, they're the class of 25 from Morningside, the last class that will graduate from Morningside High. And the lady on the end in the red, she came to me, she said, Mayor Butts, you know what? You're the only mayor I've ever known since I knew what a mayor was. You came to our class in kindergarten. You came to our class in junior high. You came middle school. You came to our class in high school. I was beginning to believe there was no other mayor that could be but you. And it touched me because that's how long that I've been the mayor for a whole generation of school kids. Please go on. Thomas, are you there, buddy? Yeah. Well, anyway, there is another picture that I texted him. It was me and The Rock at a football game, and I want to close with saying 172 million, soon to be 196 million in the bank. You guys, That's unheard of in a city. And we had so many years when we would have state senators criticize us for doing the debt swap on the bonds to get a cheaper interest rate on the pension debt, and the treasurer criticized us. We even had treasurers here criticize us and say we're going bankrupt. But let me tell you something, the proof's in the pudding. So Inglewood residents, Inglewood employees, thank you guys very much, and we're adjourned. Absolutely. Dude, dude.